Welcome back to our channel, where we dive deep into the heart of Genoa City. Today is a fantastic day to unpack the explosive drama, heartbreaking twists, and psychological warfare currently unfolding on the young and the restless. Grab your favorite beverage, settle in, and let us explore the profound depths of our favorite characters as they navigate their darkest hours. The atmosphere at the Genoa City Athletic Club is shattered by the harsh, unforgiving reality of law enforcement. Picture the scene: the clinking of fine china and the low hum of elite conversations are violently interrupted when officers from the Genoa City Police Department march through the grand double doors. Their target is none other than Cane Ashby. For a man who has spent years meticulously crafting a facade of corporate respectability and familial devotion, this public spectacle is the ultimate degradation. The officers do not mince words as they read Cane his Miranda rights, their voices echoing off the marble floors. Every syllable feels like a physical blow, not just to Cane, but to the woman standing frozen just a few feet away. Lily Winters is forced to watch this nightmare unfold in real time. The sheer indignity of the moment is palpable. Cane, dressed in his usual sharp attire, is suddenly reduced to a common criminal, his hands roughly pulled behind his back and secured with cold steel handcuffs. The visual of Cane being dragged out of the GCC is a stark, brutal reminder of how quickly the mighty can fall in this town. Lily's reaction is a masterclass in suppressed trauma and erupting panic. She stands there, her breath catching in her throat, her eyes wide with a terror that goes far beyond the immediate shock of an arrest. This is not just about seeing her ex-husband humiliated. This is about the ticking time bomb in a hospital bed in New York. Malcolm Winters, her biological father, is suffering from aplastic anemia, and his life literally depends on the bone marrow coursing through Cane's veins. In my opinion, this is how Lily is protecting herself from pain, by channeling her overwhelming, paralyzing fear into a laser-focused, almost aggressive determination to control the uncontrollable. If she allows herself to fully process the reality that Malcolm might die because of Victor Newman's corporate vendetta, she will completely shatter. Instead, Lily builds a psychological fortress of righteous indignation. She refuses to accept defeat, transforming her grief into a weapon. She looks at Cane not just as the man who broke her heart countless times, but as the fragile vessel carrying her father's salvation. The irony is agonizing: the man who caused her so much emotional destruction is now the only one who can prevent her ultimate emotional devastation. Despite the immense public humiliation, Cane Ashby maintains an eerie, almost unnatural calm as the handcuffs bite into his wrists. As he is being led away by the officers, he turns to Lily, his eyes locking onto hers with a desperate, burning intensity. He promises her, with absolute unwavering certainty, that his brilliant attorney, Amanda Sinclair, will secure his bail immediately. He swears on his life that he will make it to New York for the transplant in time. Why is Cane so composed in the face of federal charges? In my opinion, this is how Cane is protecting himself from pain by hyper-focusing on his role as the ultimate savior. Cane has spent years drowning in the guilt of his past mistakes, his lies, and his betrayals that destroyed his marriage to Lily. He knows he has lost her romantic love, perhaps forever. But this medical crisis has given him a twisted, desperate path to redemption. By becoming Malcolm's donor, Cane is no longer the villain of Lily's story, he is the hero. He clings to this mission with a fanatic zeal because if he fails to save Malcolm, he will be forced to confront the absolute, irredeemable emptiness of his legacy. His promise to Lily is not just about saving Malcolm's physical life, it is about saving his own soul. The stakes surrounding Malcolm Winters could not be higher, and the ticking clock is deafening. Aplastic anemia is a merciless, unforgiving disease that strips the body of its ability to produce new blood cells, leaving the patient defenseless against infections and uncontrolled bleeding. Malcolm is lying in a sterile hospital room in New York, his vibrant, larger-than-life spirit trapped in a rapidly failing physical shell. Time is the one currency the Winters family has completely run out of. The bone marrow transplant is not an elective procedure. It is a desperate, 11th hour Hail Mary. Every single second that Cane Ashby spends sitting in a holding cell at the GCPD is a second drained from Malcolm's fragile hourglass. The medical logistics are a nightmare. Transplants require precise timing, meticulous preparation, and a donor who is physically present and medically cleared. Cane's sudden arrest throws a massive, destructive wrench into an already precarious medical timeline. The sheer cruelty of Victor Newman's AI-generated framing plot is magnified 1,000-fold when you realize the collateral damage is a beloved man's life. The devastating ripple effects of Cane's arrest do not stop at Lily. They violently crash into the fragile world of Holden Novak. Holden is a young man already reeling from a lifetime of deception. Having recently discovered that his mother, Dr. Stephanie Simmons, lied to him for decades about his true paternity, Holden is navigating an emotional minefield. He has just learned that Malcolm Winters, the vibrant, legendary photographer of Genoa City, is his biological father. But before Holden can even begin to process this monumental shift in his identity, before he can even share a meaningful conversation or build a foundational memory with his dad, he is hit with the terrifying reality of Malcolm's imminent mortality. The news of Cane's arrest hits Holden like a physical blow to the chest. The fragile hope of getting to know his father is suddenly overshadowed by the very real possibility of attending his funeral before they can ever truly embrace. Holden's internal landscape is a chaotic storm of grief, anger, and profound loss for a relationship he never even had. In my opinion, this is how Holden is protecting himself from pain, by projecting his deep-seated feelings of abandonment onto the logistical crisis of the transplant. It is infinitely easier for Holden to obsess over the legal delays, the GCPD protocols, and the injustice of Cane's arrest than to confront the gaping, agonizing void of growing up fatherless. If he stops moving, if he stops worrying about the medical timeline, he will be forced to face the agonizing reality that his mother robbed him of years with Malcolm, and now, fate is robbing him of the future. Holden is utilizing anxiety as a shield, using his hyperfixation on Cane's bail status to numb the profound, existential terror of losing a parent he has only just found. Witnessing Holden's rapid emotional unraveling, Claire Newman steps into the fray with a fierce, protective determination. Claire is no stranger to the dark, twisted complexities of the Newman family, nor is she a stranger to the profound pain of feeling disconnected from one's roots. When she sees the sheer terror in Holden's eyes upon hearing about Cane's arrest, something deep within her is ignited. Claire realizes that passive sympathy is entirely useless in the face of the Newman machine. She knows exactly who pulled the strings to orchestrate Cane's downfall. Her own grandfather, the ruthless and omnipotent Victor Newman. Claire makes a bold, highly dangerous decision to intervene. She resolves to march directly into the lion's den to stand before Victor and plead for a man's life, hoping to convince him to speak with Christine Blair Romalotti and drop the charges against Cane. The impending confrontation between Claire and Victor Newman is fraught with intense psychological weight. Claire intends to explain Malcolm's dire medical situation, to make Victor look at the human cost of his corporate warfare. She plans to urge Victor to call off his attack dogs, specifically to convince the district attorney to drop or delay the charges against Cane for the sake of Malcolm's survival. In my opinion, this is how Claire is protecting herself from pain, by aggressively asserting her moral agency within a family historically defined by its lack of it. Claire has struggled to find her place in the Newman dynasty, constantly battling the shadows of her past and the ruthless legacy of her bloodline. By standing up to Victor to save an innocent man's life, Claire is desperately trying to prove to herself that she is not a monster. She is using her advocacy for Holden and Malcolm as a psychological anchor, a way to definitively separate her own soul from the cold, calculating cruelty of Victor Newman's empire. Meanwhile, across town, another intense psychological drama is unfolding behind closed doors. Phyllis Summers, having endured the humiliating ordeal of being arrested, booked, and processed, has finally been released on bail. But freedom is a relative concept when you are trapped in the crosshairs of Victor Newman. Phyllis is currently holed up in a secure location, vibrating with a toxic mixture of adrenaline, rage, and sheer terror. She is holding a critical, high-stakes strategy session with her brilliant legal counsel, Michael Baldwin. The atmosphere in the room is suffocatingly dense. Phyllis is acutely aware that her entire reputation, her hard-fought corporate empire, and most importantly, her physical freedom are dangling by a thread. The news of her arrest is already sending shockwaves through the corporate world, threatening to permanently destroy her reputation. She needs a miracle to mitigate the damage, and she is looking directly at Michael to provide it. Phyllis is pacing the room like a cornered lioness, her mind racing through 1,000 different scenarios, all of them ending in catastrophe. The most agonizing part of this entire ordeal is the twisted nature of the truth. Phyllis actually did orchestrate a hostile, illegal takeover of the company. She did commit corporate espionage and theft. But the specific evidence Victor is using the AI-generated emails, the fabricated audio files, is entirely fake. In my opinion, this is how Phyllis is protecting herself from pain, by channeling her profound, debilitating terror of returning to a concrete prison cell into a blinding, self-righteous fury against Victor. Phyllis cannot mentally handle the guilt of her own actual crimes, nor can she process the devastating reality that she might lose her children, Summer and Daniel, all over again. So she weaponizes her victimhood. She focuses entirely on the injustice of Victor's AI forgery, screaming about his hypocrisy and his cruelty, using her rage as a psychological armor to shield her from the terrifying truth that she brought this upon herself. Sitting across from this hurricane of emotion is Michael Baldwin. Despite the immense, terrifying shadow of Victor Newman's wrath, Michael has officially agreed to represent Phyllis, and he is steadfastly sticking to the plan. This is a monumental decision that carries severe professional and personal risks. Michael is meticulously reviewing the fabricated evidence, his brilliant legal mind searching for the microscopic flaws in Victor's AI-generated tapestry. He knows that mitigating the damage to Phyllis's reputation is just the first, agonizingly difficult step. The real war will be fought in the courtroom against Christine Blair Romalotti, a district attorney who has a long, bitter, and highly personal historical vendetta against Phyllis. Michael is stepping into a legal bloodbath, and he is doing it with his eyes wide open, fully committed to defending his oldest friend. The psychological burden resting on Michael's shoulders is almost incomprehensible. He is caught between his profound, historic friendship with Phyllis and his acute awareness of Victor's omnipotent power. In my opinion, this is how Michael is protecting himself from pain, by retreating into the cold, clinical, and highly structured world of legal strategy. The emotional weight of potentially failing his best friend and sending her to federal prison is too catastrophic for Michael to process. If he dwells on the personal stakes, he will be paralyzed by anxiety. Therefore, he compartmentalizes. He transforms Phyllis from a terrified, vulnerable friend into a complex puzzle of statutes, precedents, and evidentiary roles. By focusing obsessively on the mechanics of dismantling AI-generated fraud, Michael creates a psychological buffer, allowing him to fight Victor's machine without being crushed by the emotional gravity of the situation. The defense preparation is a grueling, exhausting endeavor. Michael explains to Phyllis that the fabricated evidence looks incredibly, terrifyingly legitimate. The AI program Victor utilized is state-of-the-art, capable of mimicking speech patterns, replicating digital footprints, and generating documents that could fool the most seasoned forensic experts. To make matters infinitely worse, the underlying narrative of the fake evidence aligns perfectly with the reality that Phyllis actually did steal the company. Michael must figure out a way to prove the evidence is forged without accidentally exposing the real crimes Phyllis committed. It is a legal tightrope walk over an active volcano. Michael plans to aggressively attack the chain of custody of the digital files, hoping to find a technical anomaly that can unravel Victor's entire manufactured case. Adding an immense layer of pressure to Michael's already impossible task is his wife, Lauren Fenimore Baldwin. Lauren is fiercely, unapologetically loyal to Phyllis. She has stood by her best friend through decades of chaos, betrayals, and redemptions. Lauren is counting on Michael to perform a legal miracle, and her expectations are a heavy, unspoken demand in their marriage. She looks at Michael not just as a husband, but as the ultimate shield against Victor Newman's tyranny. Lauren's unwavering belief in Michael's abilities is both a profound source of strength and a terrifying source of anxiety for him. He knows that if he fails to keep Phyllis out of prison, it will not just destroy Phyllis's life. It will cause a massive, potentially irreparable fracture in his own marriage. The stakes are deeply, painfully personal. As the sun sets over Genoa City, the intertwined fates of these characters hang in a delicate, terrifying balance. Cane Ashby sits in a cold holding cell, praying that Amanda Sinclair can secure his freedom before Malcolm Winters takes his final breath. Lily Winters and Holden Novak are drowning in a sea of medical desperation, their hopes pinned on a legal miracle and the brave intervention of Claire Newman. Meanwhile, Phyllis Summers and Michael Baldwin are preparing for the legal fight of their lives, desperately searching for a vulnerability in Victor Newman's impenetrable armor. The psychological warfare is escalating, the emotional toll is devastating, and the fallout from these interconnected crises promises to change the landscape of Genoa City forever. The battle lines are drawn, and the true cost of survival is about to be revealed.